All right, and we have our guest, Haley Shaw. Thank you for coming on my show.
Glad to be here.
So, what made you interested in sharing like your story? As you're an Amish taxi driver. Do you mind telling us a little about yourself? Like, what made you want to come on my show?
So I was an Amish taxi driver. Once in a while, I'll drive if they need something, but I'm not driving right now. And why do I want to come on your show? A lot of people are curious about the Amish, and I have a unique insight into their world and endless stories, and lots that we can learn from them.
From what I've heard, the Amish are kind of like they don't like the technology. It's like their religion. Are they okay with you telling their story or like what you know of them?
They know that I write books about them, and they've read the books. They don't mind if I talk about them. I just don't use their names or locations, to keep them private.
Do you mind telling me about your past? Like, what was it like growing up?
Well, I grew up Mormon.
Mormon?
Uh-huh. I grew up in Portland, so I I don't know, pretty normal, I guess.
Do you mind like where you said you're from Portland? What could you tell me about your family? And I promise we'll get into or this is just
Mhm.
how I start it usually.
No, you're fine. I'm the oldest of 4 children, and my dad was a firefighter, my mom was a nurse. We went to public school. We had a TV in our home. We went to the beach a lot. Um, yeah, it was a pretty normal American childhood. Very different
Do you-
from the Amish and very different from how I raised my children.
what was being raised like?
It was like everybody else pretty much in America. Raised
Uh,
my children by homeschooling them. And we didn't have a TV in our home when they were raised, so I raised them very different.
let's jump into your life as it was an Amish taxi driver, as you said. Like I understand what it means in a sense. Like you around, you drive the Amish around, but like, can you tell me what you think it means?
I'm just I just take the Amish where they need to go that's farther than their buggy can take them, more
How did
than
that
10
start?
miles. How did that start?
Could you tell me the story of how that kind of became a thing?
We moved here 2015, and it wasn't long after that that I was at an Amish store. Most communities have a little dry goods store at the minimum. So I was at the store and I had my pickup truck, and Amish saw my big pickup truck and they asked me to start driving for them. And I didn't know what that meant. Always looking for drivers because they like to go a lot of places and they like drivers with big vehicles.
How long after this did would you say uh um what after this did you become like acquaintances after you moved to like I'm just gonna call it the Amish country?
Oh, within a month or so, a woman befriended me and asked me if I wanted to go see the Amish. And so she took me into the community, and that's where they asked me to start driving for them. So it wasn't too long.
Was the woman also Amish or was she just like a regular folk?
She was Mormon, if that's regular. You can decide.
Can't really say I met them like out in the open. So I've only seen Amish like I think if you can call them Amish like maybe once in my life. So this is yeah.
Really? You're in Ohio,
Yeah.
right? Or
Oh
where
no,
are
I'm in
you?
Iowa.
No, okay, you're oh my stars, you're in Iowa. There's so many Amish there.
I've never met. I
What?
one time I saw an Amish. Like I don't know if maybe it's a different kind, but I saw an Amish person at my driving permit test. That's like and like I
What?
was at a quick trip.
Which community were they from, do you know?
I have no idea. I didn't talk to them. I was in the car. We were just
Huh.
stopping to get gas and yeah,
Okay. Cool.
yeah. But yeah, that's the only experience I've had with someone like that. Talking a little beforehand, did you like know people like did you know the Amish? Like you said you're a Mormon.
Well, there are no Amish in Oregon or Washington or California. I think there's one teeny community in Idaho that I've never been. So I didn't know anything about the Amish except what I maybe saw on TV or read, but that was all lies.
Going off of that, like, what did you kind of like at least stereotype them as?
Okay, so I hired when we moved here, we needed work on the house. So I hired an Amish guy to work on the house. And I remember I had a big mirror in my living room. And so when the Amish two guys walked in my house, they saw this big mirror. And I had thought that the Amish had never looked in a mirror before, had never seen what even they looked like. So I was petrified that I was somehow helping the Amish commit a sin because they would see this big mirror on the wall and they would see themselves and they'd never seen themselves before. And that
Huh.
was a lie. They can look in a mirror.
Is it like a religious thing for people like that if you look in a mirror it's like a sin or something?
It's considered to be vain. So many of the old order, lower order Amish have just teeny, teeny, tiny mirrors, just one little teeny square mirror, probably not even the size of my computer screen, so they can just kind of see if they need to shave their face a little bit or fix their hair. But that's it. They don't look in mirrors, most of them, most of the time.
After stereotyping them, since I'm guessing you were just a child, what else is the most surprising thing you think that you learned that isn't true?
I thought the Amish were a lot better than the rest of us. I thought they behaved better, they lived better lives, they were closer to God, closer to their families. And I learned that they sin and they have weaknesses and temptations and they make just as many mistakes as the rest of us. And that shocked me.
And so it's been like 9 years, nine,
10
ten
years.
years. What's your relationship kind of? Or how's your? Because like you've risen through them, you like. I'm assuming you become friends with a few of them. Like,
Mhm.
what is that? What's your relationship growing with them?
It's really handy. I've done a lot of trade with them. Like sometimes I would drive them and then they would give me food or do work on my farm. I've got a farm in their community. I don't know. It's just like with any other people, except for I can't call and text them all the time.
Who
Right.
formed the relationship first? Because you said that your Mormon friend that you met introduced you to them, but like after
Mhm.
that, like who kind of made this like who shook the hand saying hi, like, and then you kind of went from there.
Well, one woman, she is since deceased, she initiated it. We were good friends, and she had a stroke. And she had 11 children, and then she died, but I would go over and visit her, and she would feed me, and we would talk for a long time. But she initiated that. I met her because I went to her little she had a little bakery, and she sold eggs. She had hundreds of chickens, and she also had a garden. So I would go buy bread and eggs and produce from her.
Were you freaked out? Were you like, what reaction did you like when you actually met them in person? Like, how did you feel?
Mm-mm. I was humbled because they do have a different feeling to them. They have a calmness and a peace to them. And being in their home, it's a very different feeling too than it is in one of our homes where it's so noisy and there's a lot going on and electronics and distractions. Their homes are very peaceful. I think spiritual places.
Let's talk about the actual like job now. What do you enjoy? Did you how long have you been driving them, or did you drive them for?
I drove them for probably 8 years, 9 years
So
in
you kind of
there.
stopped. So you kind of stopped around COVID time.
No, last year at this time I was living in Utah working at a ski resort. I just wanted to take a break from Missouri and do something different. And then since I've come back, I've just driven. Like I drove to Indiana maybe a month ago. That was probably my last trip. So I'm not doing it very much now.
You have a husband and kids, as you mentioned. How do you feel? How do they feel about like how did they feel about your job?
Well, when we moved here, I had to do something. So it just fell into my lap and it worked out really well homeschooling my kids. And I could pay my oldest daughter to do things at the house while I was driving the Amish. And I could take my younger two kids with me really easily. And my oldest kids hated it. And my youngest kids, they enjoyed it.
How old's your oldest kid? You said you had an older daughter.
She's 24 now. She's married, but it's been 10 years. So when
Okay,
we
so
moved here, she wasn't 24. Yeah.
so she was like a teenager at the time.
Yeah. And we homeschooled, and part of their education, I wanted them to learn to work anyway. So, and to make sure they had all those household skills. And so it worked out.
What do you do now? You moved jobs.
I'm just writing full time and hoping it takes off.
Oh, about yeah. Sorry, I wasn't laughing at you.
No, no, no. I don't care. It's fine.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
By the way, I just want to say, if I stutter, it's not because of you. I just have a natural stutter, so you know,
Okay.
yeah. Just so you know. But your husband, he like, is he okay with? Was he okay with it? Or like, how would you say his reaction to it was?
Oh, so it's my ex-husband was the father of my 6 kids. We divorced, and
Oh.
that's a whole nother story. But he, anyway, he struggled to provide for us. So I did something. So he wasn't the happiest about it.
What do you mean? Struggle provide a site?
He just struggled to provide for us. We needed more
Oh,
income,
okay.
so I drove, and it was hard on all of us.
But he wasn't really comfortable with it.
Well, it's hard when you have 6 kids and you both have to work to provide.
Like, what did you most enjoy about it?
About driving Amish?
Yeah, like about the job in general.
Um, well, I enjoy connecting with people, and I enjoyed taking care of people because I was kind of taking care of them. I was responsible for their lives when we were traveling, and I enjoyed seeing the country and going to new places.
Did you drive mostly mainly the same families, people, or was it like around different people each time?
It was like 5 different communities. Some in Iowa, some in Missouri.
Did you say Iowa?
Uh-huh, of course, yeah, I'm only 20
Oh,
minutes from Iowa.
oh, cool.
Uh-huh.
I thought I saw you were from like Kansas City or something. Yeah. No,
Mm.
like you were in Kansas City when you were on vacation, or I saw the airplane. So
Well, yeah, yeah, but that's 100 miles away.
yeah, but like you drive multiple people all the time.
Yeah, it was crazy. I would get home from one trip, take like a 2 or 4-hour nap, leave for another trip. It was outrageous. It's just not
How
sustainable for long periods of time.
how long did this job last? You say like 8 years, 9 years?
Yeah, but it could go forever. If I wanted to keep doing it, I could keep doing it, but I don't want to.
Obviously, it's not like a 9 to 5, but like how long would you say you kind of went like on a range, like each day?
There wasn't each day. It would be like grandma dies in Wisconsin, let's go the next day, and then we'll come back that same night. And then 2 days later, I go to Ohio because they want to go to an auction, and we stay there for 3 days, and we come home, and then I take a day break, and I go to Oklahoma, because I don't know what's going on in Oklahoma. They want to go doctoring. It's just very sporadic, very spontaneous, very unpredictable, very, there's no schedule.
There's no schedule. It just whatever happens, happens. Really.
Whatever happens, happens. You go. I remember I got a call when I was taking a walk with my daughter one night, and a guy calls and he's like, "So someone, a family member died in Indiana. Can we leave in 4 hours?" I'm like, "Okay." So we left in 4 hours for Indiana, and Indiana is a 9-hour drive from here.
What was the pay like?
Sucks. If you
Yeah.
want to know, the Amish don't like to pay very much. They don't understand how much it takes to run a vehicle, to have insurance, to maintain it, to pay all the taxes and fees. They have no idea. So it's really, unless you have a mechanic, are a mechanic, or have access to free mechanic, it's really, it doesn't make hardly anything. There's a saying, the Amish are tighter than bark on a tree. Don't want
So
to.
like they
They
don't
don't
want to
want to
budge.
spend. They don't want to spend a lot of money on things, but they want you to pay them a lot of money for things. So yeah, that's part of their culture in a lot of
Yeah.
cases.
Just a fun question. Do you think McDonald's worker would have made more, or you?
No, because what is minimum wage in Missouri? It's $14 an hour right now. So if
Yeah.
you, um, yeah, with my expenses and everything and the hours I was gone, there's absolutely no way that I was even making close to minimum wage. Absolutely not.
And how come you still did the job if it wasn't even close to minimum wage
Because I felt like I needed to at
for
that
them or
period.
you?
I guess for both of us. So I did it. And I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying if you wanna get rich, that's not the way to do it. If you wanna see the world and meet people and have new experiences, that's that it's good for that.
So the people listening, you shouldn't just jump on a car and go out to the Amish country right now.
A lot of people do it for so one reason a lot of the wages are very low is because a lot of retirees do it because they just want something to do and they just want someone to talk to. So they charge next to nothing. So that at least that's in my area. I think in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Indiana, bigger communities, they probably do a little better. They're a little more modern Amish. They are willing to pay a little more.
Like I understand what you mean, like modern Amish, but like what how are they different usually?
They allow more technology. They allow fancier homes, maybe different color clothes. They have better manners in a lot of cases.
So they're more like in at least a little more in touch with like the modern world.
Yeah, yeah, they interact more with our world.
Speaking of like you didn't make a lot of money while doing it. So would you say there were a lot of problems, or like what problems would you say you had while doing the job?
Like I said, you can get called and then you're on your way to Indiana 4 hours later, or you could just get back from one trip and then you take a 4-hour nap and then you go to another trip. Or
You,
you have a lot, like I've gotten pulled over by cops a lot because I tend to speed, or you run into really bad weather. We almost got washed down a river one time because there was just a bad storm. We've got stuck in the mud, slid on the ice, blown tires, hit endless deer. Okay, there are a lot of hazards. If you drive a lot, you're just going to have a lot of things happen. And so I did. I don't remember how many vans I totaled hitting deer while driving the Amish.
would you say you still got to see your kids while doing this job?
Oh, yeah,
Like a
they came
lot?
with me.
Oh,
Hmm.
they come with you?
Yeah, they would take turns coming with me.
Was your truck big? Like, I assume you had to have like a big enough truck to like hold like I'm guessing 4 people, 5.
No, I had a 15-passenger van as well.
Oh wow, that's
So then I
big.
could put a kid in there and the whole Amish family, and we were
Uh,
good. Yeah. Yeah, and the Amish, their average number of children they have is 7, though I've met a lot of families that have 10 and more children, so they need a big van.
Kind of like talking about like the social life of like the Amish. Were you ever like invited to things like were you ever invited to like hang out or like do activities or dinner or anything like that?
I've stayed in many Amish homes all over the country, so I've had dinner, I've had all the meals with the Amish in their homes. Social activities, I mean, their social activities like auctions, holidays, work parties, like they'll build a barn, they'll have work days together. Those are mostly their social activities. They don't do things like we do.
So it's more
So
like they had
yeah.
to do something with their time to make it fun.
Yeah, they can't like, they wouldn't go to a movie, or they wouldn't go ice skating on a date, or out to dinner on a date. Most of them wouldn't do that.
So they had to get kind of creative with their, from what they could.
Yeah, well, they stay in their communities. I don't know of any restaurants in any Amish community I've ever been to, or a movie theater.
If you had the choice, like, would you convert? If like not to make it sound like a bad thing, but would you convert if you had the choice?
Nope,
No.
no. They wouldn't take me anyway.
It's just because you're used to your modern time, or like what is it?
I have a very rebellious, determined spirit, and
Okay.
at least in women, they don't like that, so would not fit in.
Job's more like a responsibility, or like it's just a job itself.
No, it wasn't just a job because you become connected to these families and you grow to love them and to become a part of their lives. And they become to depend on you, and then you have a relationship with them. Like I said, a lot of them, like I could go to any one of my neighbors in the community and they would help me. It's amazing. I can't do that. I don't even know my neighbors here in town. So
Would you say you liked it better like back there, or or you're like, or is it just mutual?
no, I much prefer living in the Amish community. My house isn't done yet. So, but they're the best neighbors.
Do you think they affected your values in any way? Like, while you've met them?
So they have a saying. I collect Amish proverbs, and one of their proverbs is, "The dearest thing in life are mostly near at hand," and that just means that the most important things around us are the things that are closest to us. So family, community, God, that's their focus, and I've put more of my focus on that since being around them so much. So yes,
You kind of become like a better self in a sense.
I focused on things that are most important. Yeah, like family and community and God.
Maybe it doesn't really apply to this, but if you could meet yourself like let's say you talk to yourself when you first moved into the Amish country, how do you think you guys would talk to each other?
Okay, so here's another Amish proverb. Forgive and forget instead of regret and remember. And so I would tell myself, because I've made mistakes and my life has changed a lot, and I would tell myself just to forgive and forget. And the Amish, they're very good at that. And I'm not. So,
Gotta say, man, you're like a fortune cookie with these.
oh, you're like a fortune. Maybe I should be that for Halloween. That's a good idea. Get my children to be sushi or something. And no, my husband. No, that's
I was
funny.
just thinking them out of my head with all
That's
the
no, that's
fortunes
funny.
you
I
keep.
like it.
But like, I want to talk about something you said that like before this. You said
I
that
know.
you said while driving the Amish that you've heard things that made your toes curl. Like, can you explain more?
I learned that the Amish are human and that they commit crimes just like the rest of us, and I was really shocked at that.
Yeah.
And something I won't say any statistics, but I was really shocked at how much abuse goes on within some of the Amish homes to some of the Amish children. I couldn't believe it.
Do you mean like they like? Do you mean like they unnamed themselves, or like they just said what was happening?
No, I mean I had to drive. Like I got a call to drive Amish to Pennsylvania for treatment to drive an Amish man.
Yeah.
And this is actually a community in Iowa that I drove quite a bit for. And he beat his wife and he beat his children, and he has 10 children, and he beat them growing up. He beat his kids like crazy. And it was his son that called me and asked me to drive him because he had to get out of the house. He had to have treatment for that. And then when I was in Pennsylvania, they bought me this book called Boot Prince. And you can't buy it online, but he's like, read this book. This is how our life was growing up. And it's horrible. It doesn't happen in all Amish homes, obviously. Not even like a few Amish homes, but it happens a lot more than I thought it did. So
It can't be looked up online.
it can't be found online. No, because I've tried. Because I loaned my copy out and I can't. I haven't gotten it back. I want another one.
Because
So
it
there are
does sound
catalogs.
because that does sound interesting. I kind of want to read that. Too
Yeah,
bad.
boot prints. It's hard. I was crying. I had to put it down and take a break from reading it.
Uh, but but it was but not for everybody. But for some people, it could be horrible.
Well, I have children, and I'm very sensitive to children being abused by their parents. But they believe in spoil the rod, spare the rod, spoil the child. That's part of their belief system. So,
But it was like that's some of the stuff you've heard, like, and that made your toes curl, and like it was scary to hear.
well, you can look this up. There's a story called Little Boy Blue. That's about Amish. I can't remember the details of it right now, but an Amish friend of mine told me about it, and it made me cry. Just the abuse. I think this little boy ended up dead in a blue blanket. I can't remember the circumstances. But okay, there's another one. It's a movie. I can't remember what the movie is called, but it's actually a friend of mine's cousin. I think it's called The Amish Dad. So he had a wife and children, and he was running around with his driver inappropriately, his female driver, and then he talked his female driver into murdering his wife so that he and his female driver could be together. And he had a profile online on the internet. He had a cell phone. He was dating and sleeping with all these women all over the place. And I can't remember what the movie was called, but I know he called himself the Amish Stud. And so there is a movie about it. So that shocked me.
Is there any other like topics like that I didn't cover that you would like to talk about?
No, but I'm trying to think of a proverb to leave you with. I forgot
Yeah.
my little notes
All
of
right.
proverb. Okay, can I leave you with a proverb?
Sure. Why not?
The fortune cookie? Okay. Okay, here's one. Kindness when given away keeps coming back.
Well, I love that. Well, unless
That's
there's
it.
anything, unless you want to come back and like share anything else about your old life in the Amish country. It was great to have you. Thank you, Haley, for coming on.
Yeah, it was fun.
And I have this thing where you 15 seconds to share a company, social, just anything your mind wants to. Go.
I'm on Facebook at Haley Straw 6, and then I'm on TikTok as at Amish Taxi Driver. And I have two books. They're on Amazon, and they're under my name, Haley Straw.